Okay, so in this video, we're going to be writing the equation of sine and cosine functions when we're given the key information, the key features of our graphs. So we have y equals a, where a is the amplitude. And then depending on whether you're talking about a sine or cosine function, you'll write sine or cosine. And then you have b, where b is your frequency. And the way that we can find b is we do 2 pi divided by the period, and then plus m on the end, and m is your midline. So we can go through some examples. First thing, write a sine function that has an amplitude of 4, a midline of 5, and a frequency of 7 pi over 5. So I don't need to type in the y equals because I have my f of x equals right here. I can just go ahead. I know that sine's going to be in it, and an x. Sine function that has an amplitude of 4 tells me that I put 4 right in front of sine. A midline of 5 means that I add 5 on the end. And then it gave me the frequency, so I don't have to do any work for it. Whenever you see that it gave you the frequency, you can automatically do 7 pi over 5 right in front of your x inside the parentheses. And then we'll do some examples where it doesn't give us the frequency. We're given the period instead, so it just requires one more extra step of work. So we have to write a sine function. So I'm going to write sine in here. That has a midline of 4. So I need to add 4 to the end. An amplitude of 3. 3 goes out in front of sine. And a period of 6/5. So I want b to be in my parentheses right there, so I'm going to solve for b. So b is my frequency. I do 2 pi divided by the period. And I would rather write when dividing by fractions them out 2 pi over 1 divided by 6 over 5. And we're going to keep, change, flip. So keep the first fraction, change the division to multiplication, flip the second fraction. We can simplify before we multiply across. So I have a 2 and a 6. That can be a 1 and a 3. Now 1 times 5, 5 pi, 1 times 3 on the bottom. I get 5 pi over 3 once I solve for my b. Another example where we have to actually solve for the frequency, we are given a sine function again. So sine. This one has an amplitude of 4. 4 goes out in front. Has a midline of 5. Add 5 to the end. And it has a period of 8 pi over 3. So I'm going to solve for b. I'm going to do 2 pi divided by 8 pi over 3. Keep the first fraction, 2 pi over 1. Change the division symbol to multiplication and flip the second fraction. Now when we're doing this, when we have pi on the top and bottom, we can cross them out. We have 2 and 8. They're both divisible by 2, so we get 1 and 4. Multiply across the top, 1 times 3 gives me 3. Multiply across the bottom, 1 times 4 gives me 4, and I get 3/4 as my b. We'll do 2 more examples where we actually have to solve for the frequency again. So write a cosine function. Instead of writing sin, I'll do cos. It has a midline of 3, so I add 3 to the end. Has an amplitude of 5, so 5 goes out in front of the cosine. And it has a period of pi over 7, so I'm going to solve for b by doing 2 pi divided by pi over 7. Keep 2 pi as 2 pi over 1. Change division to multiplication. Flip the second fraction, 7 over pi. I have pi on top and bottom. Nothing more I can simplify. I have 14 over 1, which is just 14. And then my last example, I have cosine. I have a midline of 4, so plus 4 on the end. I have an amplitude of 3, so 3 goes out in front of cosine. And I have a period of 6 pi, so I'm going to solve for b by doing 2 pi divided by 6 pi. I have pi on top and bottom. 2 over 6, they're both divisible by 2, so I get 1 over 3. 1/3 right there.